Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Nowadays, everyone seems to be talking about MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, and it's literally all over the social media, like Twitter and LinkedIn. And no matter wherever you go, developers and AI community are buzzing non-stop around MCP. But let's be honest, with so much hype, articles, and endless discussions that are happening on the threads, things can quickly get super confusing, right? So don't worry, I have got you covered. Today in this video, I'll break down MCP clearly and simply by answering the big questions that everyone is asking. Like what exactly is MCP? Why is MCP such a game changer for AI and automation? How does MCP really work? And by end of this video, you will fully grasp what MCP is all about and its architecture. So stick around till the end. Start from the beginning. So from where did this MCP has come? So MCP Model Context Protocol was officially introduced by Anthropic. This they have introduced it on 25th November 2024. But you might be thinking that okay, if it is already there in 2024, then why people are just started talking about it now? Why there is so much delay in the popularity? So there is a reason why it happened. So in 2024, it is in the early stage development. Like initially, MCP was released to a set of developers and companies to experiment with and get the feedback. And most people were observing, experimenting quietly. So just they are building internal tools without having really broader public adoption. So that's the reason like we didn't hear about these MCP in back in November 2024 and Jan 2025. Now from Jan 2025 to Feb, like platforms like Cursor, Windsurf, and even VS Code integrations, they all have integrated MCP into their core functionalities. So they started creating some practical demonstrations of MCP, and now in like from Feb to March, like everyone, like the developers and some tech figures, they have really started talking about real life, real world benefits and how easily they can integrate this. Like they started creating tutorials, demos. And in short, MCP was announced in late 2024, but early 2025 was when it proved really its value and it scaled in adoption and gained massive popularity. So that's the reason there is a huge surge of excitement and discussion which is going around MCP right now. And this is the official blog that they have released back in November 2024. So this is really very short blog. You can just go through it. I'll leave this link in the description as well, but there are like so many links here that you can explore. So the very first thing is this particular link, which is leading us to the documentation of MCP. And here this documentation they have really written in a very crystal clear way. It's really good. You can go through it, and I myself have gone through this documentation and it's really clear. But to explain why do we actually need MCP, I want to take help of Matt. Like he is a famous person in the AI and AI teaching community, I can say. So he has really given like two simple diagrams. Let's talk about like why do we actually need MCP. Large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, they are really incredible, but they are basically just advanced text completion systems. So they work by predicting the next most likely word based upon the data that they have seen, right? Now, they are good at tasks like writing essays, answering general questions, or generating code snippets. But these LLMs like Gemini, ChatGPT, they really cannot directly interact with the real world. For example, they cannot really send a real email on your behalf, right? And they cannot run some database queries to fetch actual data, and they cannot automate any softwares like Figma. So by understanding this, like we know that our AI assistants have all the brain that it needs, but it has no hands to perform real world actions. So to fix this limitation, developers started creating some external tools to give LLMs real world capabilities, like example, internet search integration. So this is something that we have already seen with ChatGPT, right? And there are like few coding tools that have come, like Cursor, like which is act as your AI assistant to write and run the code directly, right, within the VS. And then we have even got few AI bots, like this can be simply integrated with your Slack, and it will give you summarizations of the messages and all. So this is something, the tools are something that we have already got. But now you might be thinking that okay, the problem is solved. Now LLM have the capability to do real things. But here is a huge problem. Now as we are seeing, like GitHub, Slack, and local file system all have a unique APIs. So each of these integrations is a custom build. There is no universal standard for how these integrations are going to work. Like every new tool requires some manual setup and coding, like making it more fragile, complicated, right? It's not that easily scalable. So to explain this thing, I'll take some scenario. Think that you are integrating Slack, okay, with your LLM. So that is great. Now you want to even integrate your GitHub. Even that's again a next custom setup that you have done with some coding. And now think that like you have some local system. Again, you have done it with coding. Think that you have another box here, like which is MongoDB. Now you have to write again your custom setup code, right? So this is good. But what if think that if API changes or any software updates is going to happen, then everything breaks here. So right now it's all disconnected, like it's manual and very, very messy. So that is exactly why we need MCP. MCP will solve this problem by creating some single universal standard, like making integrations more simple and scalable, and it's more reliable as well. So we'll see now what is MCP in detail. Like MCP, as we know, it solves the exact problem that we have just seen, and it's like a universal translator. Or maybe you can think of like model context protocol. Whenever we say protocol is all about setting up some rules, right? So now think this MCP almost similar to REST APIs for web development. Like as you all know, like REST APIs is a standard, right? Like how web apps talk to each other. So that REST API has made integration between apps simple and easy. So that the same way MCP is also going to work, and but this is only for the LLMs. So now just think that we have some scenario. Like imagine it's end of your day and you're exhausted. You can simply say to your LLM, like summarize today's Slack conversations, like save the key points in Notion and email the summary to my boss. Okay. So now without MCP, if you're going to do this task, you have to always copy Slack messages to your LLM, like to the chat interface, and you have to summarize them yourself, like updating Notion manually, or like once you get the answer from your LLM, you have to just go there and put everything. So it's like a lot of manual work which is involved over there. But whenever you are introducing this MCP AO, so your AI instantly does that everything, like conversations from Slack, and it will neatly summarize whatever the information that it found in Slack, and it saves to Notion, and even send mail to your boss directly. So this is kind of a next level of productivity that we can create. And even there are like even other scenarios, like you can tell that okay, think that okay, you are coding late at night and suddenly there is some weird bug pops up. Okay, instead of like you panicking, you can calmly ask your AI, okay, check the GitHub if someone already logged this bug. If not, create some detailed issue with the steps that I can do to solve this issue, or maybe reproduce or rebase the branch, all these things. So once you have MCP, this AI will easily talk to your GitHub, and it gets to know okay what exactly the problem is, and it will give all the context to your LLM, and it will talk to your LLM as well as GitHub in a seamless way. So this is about MCP. I hope like now you have got a better understanding about MCP. So now let's go to the documentation here, and there is a general architecture that is provided, and this is really, really good. So I'll explain this architecture by using some example. So think that you're instructing your AI assistant. It might be Claude or maybe your cursor. So now you'll say that check Slack if there is any error I'm seeing, or maybe the bug that I'm seeing. If it is already reported, then don't do anything. If it is not, create a new issue on GitHub by giving all the detailed steps from my local project notes. Okay, so this is like a very huge, like if you're trying to give this directly to the LLM doesn't have any context about your Slack messages or maybe GitHub or even your project notes. But now when you tell this with the MCP, so how exactly MCP help you to achieve this? So that is something that we're going to see now. So the step one is we have host with MCP client. So this is the client, can be anything. It might be Cursor or Windsurf or anything. And you as a user, you are interacting with your AI assistant, okay, which is MCP host. And now your instruction is very simple, right? Like check Slack if my error is reported. If not, create a GitHub issue by using my local notes. Now what it does, this MCP host is going to talk to your MCP servers. Like, and how it is talking, it's using MCP protocol over there. So now MCP host, your Cursor or Windsurf, this takes your instructions and translate it into a clear structured request using this MCP protocol. And now what I mean by clear structured request is your AI assistant clearly defines like which service to call. Okay, here in this query, which is check Slack. Here I'm gonna write that query so that like we can always come back here. So check Slack if my error is reported. If not, create a GitHub issue from local notes. So this is my instruction to my MCP host. Okay, so now this AI assistant, like which is MCP host, which clearly defines which service to call. Which service to call in the sense like Slack, GitHub, or your local nodes. It knows what to call, and it knows what actions to perform. It tells, okay, so like what actions to perform, like retrieve Slack messages or maybe search GitHub issues and read the local notes. So this standard protocol ensures that there is a clear communication which is happening. And now once we have it, now MCP server handling comes into the picture. So now this MCP server A will talk to your local resource, like which is your computer. So it access all your local file system or local database. For example, if you have a local project notes saved in some path, so it clearly goes over there and checks it. And what it does is, like, once it finds it, it will return relevant information clearly in a structured way back to the MCP host from here to this one. And now, so your think that your server A is talking to your only local paths, local file paths. Now you have MCP B, like server B. Now this connects to Slack remote APIs, and it uses some standard web API calls and make sure that see all the recent messages or maybe channels which talks about error, and it returns again the info clearly back to the MCP host. And then later we are talking about GitHub. Just think that, like, we have even GitHub API. So this server C is connecting to GitHub API. Like, it searches if your specific error already exists as an issue in GitHub. If the issue does not exist, so it will create a new GitHub issue using clear information that it already had from the MCP host. And so MCP host got all this information from A and B, right? So this is the way that it updates. So finally, how your MCP servers and MCP host talks is, like, now your AI assistant receives some structured responses from all your MCP servers, right? And then it clearly summarizes and presents this results to the user, like stating that, okay, now your issue wasn't reported on Slack, and I have successfully created a new GitHub issue detailing the error from your local project notes, and it will give you even a GitHub issue link. So this is the way how your MCP client host and your servers and your other tools are going to talk. And you have a very good crisp definitions of all those things, like what exactly we mean by host, client, servers, and even remote services. Those are given here. And even if you want to develop these MCP servers from scratch, we can do that. And they have provided different SDKs, like they are supporting different language SDKs, Python, TypeScript, Java, and they have even given the specifications. And if you are, like, familiar with Python or Java, you can, whatever the language that is comfortable, you can use it. And I'm mostly comfortable with Python. So once you come here, so it is official Python SDK, and you can see, like, there are good amount of contributors here. And this is a specific MCP documentation only with respect to the Python SDK. So here you will see what all it covers. So here you can see build MCP clients that can connect to any MCP server, and how you can create servers that expose resources or your prompts, your tools, and how you can handle all MCP protocol messages and its lifecycle events. So it comes simply with pip install. You can do this, and then here is a quick start of how you can get started with using MCP. So in the next video, I'm going to cover this. So stay tuned, and I hope you like this content. Thank you.